Welcome to the Dental Implant Practices podcast, where each episode will explore how to integrate dental implants into your practice and into bone, with your host, Dr. Philip Gordon.
Hey guys, thanks for being listeners of the show. Go to dentalimplantpractices.com and find all of our resources. Also find us on Facebook, Dental Implant Practices page on Facebook, and go to iTunes and leave me a review on iTunes so we can help spread the message. Thanks. Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Implant Practices podcast. I'm your host, Philip Gordon, and today it's a huge honor for me to introduce John Tyszka. John is you're an owner, is that correct, of Precision One Medical?
Well, I was the owner until we were acquired through a BioHorizons acquisition.
Okay. Say, what's your role now?
Well, I'm the Senior Vice President of Business Operations.
Okay. So that's the main manufacturing facility for BioHorizons implants. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
John, for people that may not know you, I've got some questions that hopefully can kind of walk through a little bit about some of your past and kind of about your company and what you do. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your work history and then kind of what led up to you opening Precision One Medical?
Sure. My work history goes back, I want to say 35 years in the machine industry, where I started as a quality control inspector for a company called Endevco, which was part of the Allied Signal Group later on, which was more involved with aerospace. Working through them, I wound up going back to school and learning more about engineering, and my interest took into manufacturing engineering and statistical process control and those type of methods of manufacturing where you can control things through the use of statistics, or not even so much control them, but understand the process statistically and what the output could be, and then hopefully design around the output. As my career kind of grew, I wound up working for a company called Allied Swiss that contracted to a lot of dental companies and making their implants, one of the first ones being Dr. Nisnik's Corvent way back during his first phase of his North American release. He had worked with the owner of Allied Swiss in developing that connection and those implants. And they had produced them before I got there. And then once I got there, which was about 1993, I had maybe even a little longer than that. I took over as engineering manager and got a real interest in the dental market and its development and what was happening with implantology. And so I kind of jumped into that with a little bit more depth to try to understand the breadth of what the industry was doing and where it was going, and worked for this company for about 17 years. It was a privately owned company until they sold to a private equity group, and the private equity group was taking the company in a direction that was a little bit more away from what I wanted to do. And I had a good friend and business peer, Steve Patterson, that I'd worked with for almost the entire time at Allied Swiss. And we were talking one day, and at the bottom of the recession in 2009, when the market was just about done at around 6,000 and no one was giving loans, we decided to walk away from our jobs and create, with another partner, Precision One Medical. And then a couple of junior partners had joined us. So there was 5 of us initially. And we took off and had this scheme in how we wanted to create implant production and manufacture for medical and dental companies that would be a little bit different. Our focus would be on just a few companies versus the typical contract manufacturer trying to grab everything all at once, and focus on creating lines for these companies that they could control. So we were almost like an annex or another arm of that company where we understood their forecasting, and we built, for the year at prices that were more static and aggressive, and created processes using those statistic methods that we were talking about that I mentioned to build these processes, make them more robust. And working with these companies, because we could have long-term commitments and contracts with them, we could look at continuous improvement as a feature that we could offer, because as a contract manufacturer, it's hard to offer continuous improvement, mainly because you don't know if you're going to get the next PO unless you have a long-term commitment. And Bio had jumped right on board, and we were approached by them and said, "Hey, would you be willing to work with us on this?" And so we were all over that. Within about 3 to 4 years of that, we had grown from our initial 5 people to about, I want to say 83 full-time employees. So Precision One kind of blew up. We started in small little suites, like those industrial suites. And in 2012, we purchased a building that was about 47,000 square feet, on which we were only going to consume about 30,000 of it. And then lease the other side. It was actually built into 2 sectors. So we began to fill that up. And then in 2014, I want to say 2014, we wound up making a deal, merging with, BioHorizons and completing the partnership, which was beneficial definitely for both of us. And as you mentioned, became their primary manufacturing site. And that's kind of how all that happened. And I think today now we have about close to 120 full-time employees running 2 shifts. So it was just within a 5-6 year period, we grew very, very quickly. But it was because we were so focused and had a lot of knowledge of the implant foundation of manufacturing that was out there. And we took a commitment to our employees, and I think that's what changed a lot of what we did, made it more successful, I should say.
Yeah, so you were able to really, grab an opportunity and focus in and say, we're just going to get really good at this and stick with it. And it seems like it's really paid off for you. So when you started Precision One, how many implant companies were you making parts for?
Well, we initially had to start with the one because, we wanted to make sure we had to focus, but it grew pretty quickly, and we probably had about 4 or 5 after the first year. So our focus was with the commitment we had with BioHorizons, and then kind of went on from there as we started to grow. We hoped to kind of grow it larger and larger. We started pulling from the pool of people that we had worked with and knew that were really good employees. And then the entire philosophy that we had as a senior management team was kind of to say, hey, let's make this an employee-centric company for real, not just speak the terms that you heard a lot of people do in industry, but we put our employees first, knowing that 100% of our top assets were going to leave that company every day. Our main job function as ownership at that time was to make them want to come back because they had more value than really we did, because they're the ones that made things happen. And so we did that, and then also focused on the customer. So with those 2 pieces in place, with the customer and the employee foundation, everything else just kind of fell into a natural, trend. We were able to work with tooling groups, get the right machines. And then, the management piece was much easier because of the people we were able to bring over, because that's where people wanted to work, because it was word of mouth got out quickly that this was a little bit of a different environment, that it was all about, the employee and customer, and that management wasn't looking to, kind of be the heroes of it. We were more the support function, which it should be. Management should be the support function. They shouldn't be, if you want to lead from, in a lot of sense, in support.
Yeah, that's true. Leadership's not there to yell at you. They're here to lift you up, make you your best. So your company is specifically focused on BioHorizons now. And so is all of BioHorizons manufacturing done at that location there in California?
No, they also have a facility in Birmingham too. Where they do both. They had one that was sustaining there that was a little bit smaller. They're more focused on other product lines. We take the general high volume stuff, which we were really, focused on, and that was our core competency. And so it is still split up, and they've got an unbelievably good team in Birmingham. In fact, that was one of the things that excited the ownership of Precision One in committing to the acquisition pieces, that we've always believed that the management foundation at BioHorizons was one of the strongest we've ever seen. They're really committed also to the employees. They had the same values. You could just see it as a supplier in talking to them. The way you were treated as a supplier, you had to know that the employees were treated as good, if not better, and they treat their supply chain very, very well. They understand what it takes to be successful and how to commit to the customers and the customer needs. So that was a big part of our conversations prior to, being acquired. Is, we were excited to be part of this team. We actually wanted to be a part of that team for quite a while. That was our initial intent, because I had worked with them through the Allied Swiss group for quite a while too. And so I had known, their management team for years and years prior to all this occurring with Precision One. And again, we had always admired the way both Steve Bogan and Todd Strong had run the business and handled things. And It was kind of an honor actually for all of us to become part of that team.
Yeah, that's great. Now, how many product lines do you run at Precision One there? So do you run just one type of implant, or different types of abutments or prosthetics, or what all do you manufacture there locally, and how precise is that manufacturing? I mean, obviously implants are small, so you've got to be. What's your quality control like?
Well, the quality control, as I mentioned, is real strict, because we had done a lot of the process validations up front and utilized a lot of my background and other people's background with the company in creating statistical models that would show us how we could best perform with the processes we had to meet the demands of the tolerance and specifications, which are very, very tight to hold within the implant designs that we're actually machining to. And as for the lines themselves, we pretty much run, I believe, all the implants at our facility. We also run, as you mentioned, abutments, the multi-units, a lot of the tools to get made, the attachment screws. So a good bulk of, all the implant lines that are offered. And as you mentioned, we still produce for some of these other companies also, because the quality level of Precision One is so high, and our service satisfaction indexes are high, so they continue to do business with us still.
You don't typically hear that kind of thing, do you?
No. In fact, that was kind of an unexpected, I think, surprise, at least from my end. I expected the opposite to happen, but I think the Precision One Medical, our reputation was such that it kind of outstood the fact that that they could move that elsewhere. They didn't want to move a lot of these products that were elsewhere, and I think the BioHorizons group was real receptive to that idea to keep that as much of a whole. It also kept our employees feeling like we were still the company that they were committed to, which that I can't say enough about BioHorizons. The biggest fear when you're acquired is people start to get scared, and man, the support team at Bio made our people feel comfortable. So not only did they do it at the our customer level, but they did it at our employee base level too.
Well, you've got to have a good foundation and a good team if you're going to have that much success for the whole company. So, I know BioHorizons is a pretty big player in implants. I'm not sure what sort of market share they have of, dental implants, but, if you guys were at capacity, how many lines do you run at once? How many implants do you make per day or per month, or does that kind of depend based on need? How does that work?
Yeah, it's switched over. It's based on need. We follow a lot of what they call TPS, Toyota Production System, or lean manufacturing methodology. So we plan on switchovers based on market demand for what's going to occur, so we can continue to give the customer on the other end what they need. Most of the market stuff we definitely leave up to them. We are a separate entity in that sense. We kind of manufacture this based on the demand they give us, and assure that whatever that demand is going to be, that we have the capacity to fulfill it. I would say that they've never been afraid to support anything that we've requested to do. And again, that's probably one of the reasons why we've seen such success even post-acquisition. We continue to just thrive in the way we improve, and the product we make gets better and better. And that was something else. I mean, and this is just a personal piece. I've been around a long time, and there's a lot of good dental implant systems out there, obviously. A lot of different dental technicians and dentists and surgeons, and they all have their favorites. But I know that from the manufacturing perspective, what we've done with the bioimplant and everything that goes into it and how it's done, it's pretty much the premier piece that's out there, from a dimensional piece, from a specification piece, to the way it goes together at the interface. And the connection and all the things that go around it is just has always been something that I thought was superior out there. Again, I have not a bias so much because we're now partnered with them, but prior to that, I mean, that's what was the excitement factor. If I didn't believe, trust me, if I didn't really think this was the best product out there, there's no way I would associate, or my partner Steve would associate with something that we didn't, fully believe, because the one thing we've always held near and dear to us is our reputation out there in manufacturing and what we do. That, in the end, all you really have is reputation. It's more important than anything else. It takes years and years to build, but only one bad moment to lose it all and have to build it again. So we took careful consideration, and it didn't take us long to know this was the best thing to do, because they are, to me, the best product out there.
Yeah, it's always good to work with the best, and you only want to put your heart and soul and reputation in something that you feel is working good. Now, I know you've, like you said, been in the implant business a long time. What changes in technology have you seen over that time as it relates to implant manufacturing, or just the processes that you're involved with?
Well, I think, all the way around, you start to look at the general forward movement, which can sometimes be referred to as blue ocean event. You start to see things like the digital market growing, the custom abutment market growing, where implant companies are becoming not so much an implant company, but a solutions company all the way around. I think you see that in the way a lot of companies are moving, definitely in the way, you look at, to me, how Henry Schein handles everything, the one-stop shop, where you can buy a lot of different things now, including implants, and everything in one place. You have the solution for that dentist or surgeon all at their fingertips in a one-stop vertically integrated system. And I think that trend is starting to be kind of cool to watch. And some of it, like I say, we're not that involved in. We kind of see it from a peripheral standpoint, because, again, our focus is manufacturing. I can't be any more honest saying when it comes to a lot of that market stuff, we have a good feel for it, but we're not the best. We're not the brightest at knowing that market. That's the experts at Bio and Henry Schein. Our focus is on the manufacturing, but they work closely with us. Our job is to make sure that whatever we make for them is producible consistently, reliably, and done with a high level of quality. And to your point, we see a lot of trends. Now, in our field, what we do see is machining and the equipment and the inspection technologies increasing, vision systems for measurement that can measure within 5/10,000ths of an inch using light image displacement technology, and machines that can continue to reproduce because the way they're built and the way they sustain tolerances and the way the tool systems are attached to it are so much more robust, and they're so much quicker and repeatable than they were, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. Even the feed systems for the bars that we use to feed them have become quieter, better, limiting vibration, which extends tool life. One thing we do that's unusual, even for Precision One, we even make our own cutting tools there. We have a CNC grinder, so we manufacture custom tools to be able to engineer what we call geometries and rakes on these tools that will actually enhance the cutting technology and lifespan of the tool. So those are the things you start to see grow. And then, like I mentioned, internally for us, but then the peripheral stuff, like I said, the digital dentistry, the solutions piece, the biologicals, it's all, like I say, a lot of that's beyond us, but obviously a lot of that is shared with us directionally.
Yeah. You don't have to know it all, but you got to have your finger on the pulse of the company and where it's headed. So, these machines you guys use, they're pretty big machines. They're real high tech, but at the end of the day, they're just like other machine shop tools. Where do you guys get your machines from? And then also, where does your raw titanium come from?
Our machines are pretty much Star machines. That would be the brand name Star, and we've started with Star. We've pretty much always used Star. I think the interfaces are very user-friendly. Most of our machinists are very comfortable with them. Star, when we were young, like I mentioned, in 2009, and the market was down, had believed in us and gave us some opportunities that most companies wouldn't in working with us and dealing with machines to us in the sense of we could pay them off in the future. They had faith in our ability because, it was hard to get cash in 2009. The banks weren't doing that well. And so when you're looking for big capital investments, you're really fighting it. And we wanted to make it ours and not venture capitalists and investors that you had to answer to, because we wanted to be able to run with our ideas and, our strategy. So Star was good enough to reach out with us, and we've always used them, and we've had great performance from them and service. So we've never seen any reason to kind of move away from them. So I would say for the most part, that has been our focus with machines. What was the second part of your question? I'm sorry, Philip.
Yeah, where's the titanium come from? I mean, who's making who's manufacturing? You buy rods of the titanium. Who's refining that and processing that? Is that a certain country or a certain specific area?
No, it's all domestic. It's bought out of Pittsburgh at a company called Perryman. They make everything from scratch there. I've been to their site. It's an amazing process to watch. They have all sorts of high-tech equipment. And I've personally worked with Perryman for over 20 plus, maybe 25 years. and their product is outstanding. We really have never seen any kind of problems with it. They produce it, they control it. It's just really good. We have our bars have to be ground, so it's really good product from the sense of how consistent it is to go through what we call our bar feeders. So it's, that's always been a good partnership. And that was a similar effect in 2009 that I mentioned with Star. We had to get going, they had to take the risk on, would we be paying them in the terms that we discussed and stuff because we were a new company, but they made sure that we were supplied and could get going and get out there. That's been a good partnership also.
Yeah, you do have to have good partnerships, and your suppliers and your manufacturers, you all have to, have good relationships with those people, because you're only as good as the people you work with. And, that's great that you were able to secure good working relationships with these companies early on, and that's probably been beneficial for all of you.
Oh, no doubt. We've been very fortunate and blessed to meet the right kind of people, and have had that support function all the way around, both from the customer, faith in the customer base, faith from the supply chain. Steve Patterson and myself we never expected to grow it this quick, and I'm not going to say that we're the brightest guys on the planet, but we've always had a good support function around us. And the one level of intelligence we've always brought was we were smart enough to listen to those that wanted to be involved and take their advice and their guidance at times. And it's always proved to work out right for us. We never try to believe it's been about us. It's really about everyone that surrounds us.
Yeah, I think to have any level of success, you've got to think that way. If you think you're going to do it all yourself, you've got a hard reality coming eventually.
Right. Yeah. You can never believe you're the best or the smartest, because there's always someone out there that's going to be better. And we believe in the process of benchmarking. We're always looking what others are trying to do or accomplish and looking to either do that or do it a better way. Our business was really built on a company in Allied Swiss that was a great company, and they were very progressive in what they were doing. We just took a lot of their models and added some of our flavor to it to, as Steve and I always call it, kind of take that model and just introduce steroids to it, just build it up with some of the things that we thought would just enhance it a little bit better. And it just panned out for us, like I say. So it's always been, we've been at least smart enough to utilize our resources in the proper way, I believe.
Yeah. When you're talking about implant manufacturing, there's maybe a lot of people that haven't taken a tour of a manufacturing plant and don't really know what goes on there. I think we've talked about a lot of specifics that you do and all that, but do you think you could kind of walk my listeners through, you've got this big, long machine and you're feeding a bar of titanium in on one end and out pops an implant on the other? I mean, can you talk about, what exactly is going on there? And then is there a separate manufacturing facility? So you've got basically like this big lathe that you're feeding the titanium in, and kind of what happens?
Okay, yeah, you've pretty much covered it at the 30,000 foot level already. It takes a bar of titanium that's precision ground and feeds through a guide bushing and a collet system. And there's tools that this bar is actually fed into. And these tools do the cutting of the geometries of what you see in an implant, both internal and external to it. But our machines have both the initial bar piece and then what we call a sub-spindle, where it's another spindle, another machine spindle that can come grab the part and finish the other end while the next one, first end is running again. And both of these ends have tools, and they have both static tools, which means that the tool just has the geometry and the part spinning itself, and the tool comes to it, and the spinning motion of the bar, the tool passes along that bar and creates a cut or a configuration depending on what you're trying to achieve with it. And then the sub-spindle, it'll cut that piece off, the sub-spindle will grab it and finish the other end. And a lot of that's done with static tools, but we also have what we call live tools, which now the part can actually stop in the spindle, and we can do some types of milling. It just gives us more and more axes to work off of to do more complicated geometries and configurations and hold things a little bit tighter. So as it comes off and it's cut off, it falls in a little basket and goes down a little conveyor, comes out, gets blown off, and gets put in an isolation tray. We really try not to let implants touch each other once they're manufactured, and they go in these isolation trays, and these isolation trays fit in our cleaners, and the parts get cleaned, and then they go through all the other processes. We do a visual inspection to make sure everything looks good and perfect. There's no burrs on it or any kind of defects. Everything gets inspected 100%, and then that moves on and goes down to the final cleaning and packaging. There are, we have an anodizing operation where we put color to the part utilizing, electrolyte, and basically a refractory science to where we build up titanium oxide on the surface, and the colors actually separate by waves, and some eliminate, some don't, and that's how you see the color on the color codes. It for you guys that are placing that stuff to know that blue goes with blue, yellow goes with yellow, green goes with green. So it eliminates the opportunity of making a mistake. In manufacturing, it would be called doing every attempt to poke-yoke something. It's an old Japanese term from, I think, about 20 years ago. And that means making it so it's hard to kind of screw it up. And so it's real simplified. Yeah, the machine does, the work, but you have a lot of programmers behind it. Everything is computer numerically controlled, and it's complex, and all with codes. And we have a programming team with the engineering team, and the programs go out to the floor, and the setup guys all understand the program. Everybody works together to create this product. So it is not just a single individual; it is a team of people that gets this whole process working right.
Yeah, it's quite a deal to see one of those operation floors. And so if somebody was wanting to take a tour, is that something that you guys would allow, or does that have to go through BioHorizons, or how does that work?
No, somebody could probably call me. I mean, I always notify them if someone's coming, just in case, if customers or, want to ask questions about other ends of the business, so they have the ability to come out there, or they can send one of our sales reps to the site. But I always encourage, I think I would love to show more and more surgeons and dentists and lab techs and stuff what we do, because once you see what we do, there's no doubt you're going to want our product. Because I believe, and I've been on all our competitors' floor, and it's not to downgrade them, but if we didn't have this level of cockiness to us that we're the best, then we have no right to be in business. But I think our team is probably the best manufacturing group, and I think what the operations people and what they've accomplished in creating our process flow and systems and the way they've been engineered is second to none by far. And that all, attributes all the way back to the employee base itself. It's again, not Steve and I. The team is just that spectacular in what they've put together. And I'd put them up against anybody, anywhere on the globe.
Now you guys are in Oceanside, California, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, and plus, you're right. Plus, it doesn't suck to come to Oceanside.
Yeah. So that's kind of an extra perk there, right? I mean, I know we vacationed there before, and so.
Yeah, 6 miles from the beach and sun. Yeah, that's not a bad deal, So it's always nice to come out to California. I grew up in Chicago, and I made my home out here way back in 79, 80. I came out by myself, and I've got a lot of roots and love for the city of Chicago, but, I don't see leaving California anytime soon.
You don't miss those winters, do you?
No, not at all. Not at all. You know what? Everybody knows I'm a huge Cub fan, and I do miss going to Wrigley. But maybe it's good that I'm not that close. I'd spend a lot more time at the games than I would at work. So, and being that a lot of them are day games, that's going to take away from some stuff. But yeah, you're right. I don't miss the winters at all.
So I know we've talked about a lot here. I mean, I think we've covered some pretty good ground here. Anything else that, we haven't touched on that you think people should know or that would want to know? I try to cover the basis for people, but anything else that you kind of wanted to get out for the listeners?
No, I think you did a great job in covering it. Like I say, I always encourage people to try to contact me if you want to see how things are made. I'm pretty much always willing to try to schedule a tour and show people how it's done, especially, our customer base. And again, I can't encourage it enough. We're very proud of what we do, and having people come see it just emphasizes and shows them, why I believe that, the products that we make are the best, and why, we've done what we do.
Yeah, I always encourage people to go out and meet their supply chains and meet the people that are making stuff for you and make those relationships. I think it's important to see, where the backbone of the company is at and who the people are, and it gives you a better understanding of kind of the products you're dealing with. So I think that
I've even told my dentist, he had to take me up. I'm like, hey, come on out, man. You want to see how the cool stuff is done? And I know you're not placing implants yet. I'd like to see more and more GPs get into placing them. I don't, again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you the complexity of everything. But, being in the manufacturing machining industry, to me, it's, you're putting a screw into something, and that's what we've been doing for, 30 plus years, is doing some type of assembly or manufacturing where we're either making a screw or inserting it into an assembly. And I think the way technology has grown, to your point earlier, it gets easier and easier. And I know that there's a lot of people that are starting to press to see more and more GPs do it. And I just want to have it more accessible, because I think it's a great solution to where we were, obviously 30 40 years ago. I remember the pain and suffering that my parents who have passed went through with dentures way back when. And, my wife's got 2 dental implants, and she got like 10, 12 years ago, and she loves them. I mean, everyone I've ever talked to that's had them usually has pretty good experiences with them. And I just want to see the technology continue to grow because it's a great solution for replacement.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, you've really nailed it there. It's not just not a system or a tool. I mean, it's a solution. It solves problems. And I think, that's what's exciting to, I'm sure for you guys to work on that is saying, you're providing something that's a great quality for, it's a great service for dentists to be able to provide. It's a great quality for people to get that. And so it's just, I think it's an exciting field. And I'm glad that, everybody involved with implant dentistry, I think sees the opportunity for, good things to come. So I think it's good that, you guys are excited about that too.
No, we are. And I think we have an acquaintance that we both know that he's a real big proponent of implants and he does a pretty good job at what he does. And that's Dr. Justin Moody. And I've had the opportunity to meet him and we've become friends, and he's a good guy. He's taught me a lot about your guys' end of what goes on. And he's been out to our facility also. And I always encourage him to come out, and not only just to talk dentistry with him, but he's kind of a fun guy to hang around with at night and have a couple cocktails.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He definitely knows a lot about implants, and told me to give you a call and see what's going on your end. So I'm going to try to set up a time at some point to head back out to Oceanside and give you guys a look up when I do. But definitely appreciate your time here today, and all the information you shared with us, and hope things keep going well for you out there in the California territory.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about P1, and obviously something I'm real passionate about. And definitely the invitation's extended out to you. If you're ever out here, I'd be very dismayed if you didn't at least make an attempt to come by and see what we do.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I won't keep you any longer. If anybody wants to get a hold of you or your company, what's the best way to do that?
You can look up our website, www.precisionOneMedical.com, and look up the number and just call in, or our phone number. You can reach me through 760-945-7966, and this extension 202. Contact me directly through there too.
Great. Well, I'll direct people your way if they ever want to, go see what you're all about and see, kind of peek behind the curtain of the dental implant manufacturing world. So once again, appreciate your time today and keep doing all the great work that you're doing.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the opportunity, Phil.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.